Welcome, vinyl community. This is Dwayne Rock and Doc coming at you with another YouTube video. This time around, we're going to check out a bunch of recent vinyl finds for March 2023. And we're going to start off with a whole whack of compilation vinyl that I was able to get a hold of. Thanks to Terry at Eroc Records in Edmonton for letting me know he got this collection in and putting it away for me till I could pick it up. Anyways, here's first off is it's a 3 LP compilation set called Acid Dreams with a sort of an unusual packaging. Comes in this sort of envelope kind of deal. Folds out with this kind of psychedelic picture, and not much for liner notes. It has this thing, tells you a little bit about the bands and the singles and the year they came out and all that. A lot of obscure stuff. I quickly looked over the list, and I think there was only 2 bands on here that I've even heard of. One was Zachary Thax, and the other one was Balloon Farm. Then another compilation set I got, 3 volumes of Hipsville, 1, 2, 3, and again these are pretty obscure bands that you might not have heard of. And then I got a bunch of LPs from a couple of series that a lot of people might be familiar with. The first one being the Nuggets series, and this is a 12-volume series that was put out by Rhino Records in the 80s. It's all garage punk psych from the 60s, and the Nuggets was mostly by genre. You see here, this is volume 1, it's pop, and I think there's like 4 volumes of pop and a couple of volumes of punk and folk rock and acid rock, and then there's a couple that are like area specific, the Northwest. What else was there? Anyways, I got the whole series except for volume 6. I'm missing volume 6, and probably over half of these are still in the shrink. So and this series has a lot of stuff that anybody that's into this kind of stuff will have, names, bands that you recognize, like Chocolate Watch Band, the Standells, the Sonics, that kind of stuff. Bands that you're familiar with, but you'll still probably find some obscurities on this. There, that's the set. Then another set that I was stoked that I got, and this is high in the mid 60s. There was 23 volumes of this, and again, it's garage punk, psych stuff from obviously from the 60s, but these were released in the 80s, and unlike Nuggets, these ones are more go by city or states. There's a couple here like this one from LA. There's a couple volumes of LA and Hollywood and Chicago. And then there's states like Wisconsin, Ohio, Texas, and I think there's a few in here that are genre specific. But like I said, unlike Nuggets, a lot of this stuff, some of the names on these you'll probably be familiar with, but there'll be lots of obscure stuff, probably lots of bands that you've never heard of. And I was fortunate enough, I already had 4 volumes of this, but I got the rest, so I have the complete, now I have the complete set of 23 volumes. And they each have a little write-up on the back, like the Nuggets did. I didn't show you that though, but the Nuggets have a little write-up on the back. And this was, it's, if you can see in the corner here, this was put out by the Pebbles, I guess, because it says Pebbles Presents Highs in the Mid-60s. So, glad I got those. I love compilation albums, especially the kind with the weird stuff and the obscure stuff that you've never had the chance to hear before. So you pick up these compilations and you get to hear bands that you've never heard before. And those were, I got to thank my grandkids, Hunter and Kanan, they were in Edmonton a week before I went to Edmonton, and I'd forgot that they had gone to Edmonton, so they picked them up while they were there. And Kanan phoned me and said, "Grandpa, I picked your stuff up for you, so thanks for doing that for me, kids." And then I went to Edmonton myself. I had an eye doctor appointment the week after. So, as usual, whenever I go to Edmonton, and it's been a while since I've been to Edmonton. I don't know, I think the last time I was in Edmonton was just after Christmas. So, I went nuts. Once again, spent way too much money. But I did pick up some stuff from Eroc Records, Freecloud Records, Listen Records, and Record Collector's Paradise in Edmonton. 4 of my favorite stores there. And I got to tell you, I had a bad day to start with driving to Edmonton, which is like a 2.5, 3 hour drive from here. Got to Kitscoty, which is the first town west of Lloydminster. It's about, 20 minutes away. My check engine light came on. And it was, oh God, I'm not taking a chance of driving to Edmonton with my check engine light on. So I went to the next town because I knew they had some car dealerships in the next town, which is Vermilion, which is about 45 minutes from Lloyd. And stopped in at the car dealership, got them to check why my check engine light was coming on, and it was because I needed to replace my thermostat. It was not opening and closing properly. So I had to wait over an hour to get that fixed, and I was getting a little worried that I wouldn't make my appointment on time in Edmonton, but they did get me out in time and spent a bunch of money to get it fixed. So there went some of the spending money I had taken Edmonton to spend on records, so I didn't get a chance to spend as much as I wanted. But anyways, here's a couple of things I got. Brand new reissue of Sladest, which is a greatest hits album, and they've been releasing a lot of Slade albums recently in the last year or so, and they all come on some kind of colored vinyl. This one's on purple and black swirl, I guess you'd call that, or marble. So that's Sladest. Well, before I get into that, I guess that one came with the Eroc stuff that my grandsons picked up, but I did get a pre-order from, that I put in about a couple months ago for the brand new one from Daddy Longlegs. This is their latest one, their 4th album called Street Sermons, and they're a kind of a R&B rock and blues outfit from Brooklyn, New York, and brand new one. Also, whoops, upside down. Also brand new, This just came out. This is their brand new album from Calgary. Horror rock, hard rock, garage punk, whatever you want to call it, Forbidden Dimensions. And or Forbidden Dimension. And this is their brand new one. It just came out in March, called Midnight Stew. And features great artwork from their vocalist and guitarist Tommy Bagley. Awesome. His albums always have great artwork. And more great artwork on the inside sleeve. And this one comes on you can't see it very well, but it's a clear purple swirl vinyl. You can't see the swirls very good though, but brand new one from Forbidden Dimension. Great album. Highly recommended. Lots of great guitar work in this album. And as you can tell, I'm wearing their shirt from one of their other albums. And they've recently teamed up with a record label called Wasted Wax Records. I think they're out of Red Deer, Alberta. And they've been reissuing a lot of their older stuff, except for the one I just showed you. That's, like I said, that's their brand new one, just came out. So back to Edmonton when I was there. Stopped in at Listen Records, picked this up, the Modernettes. This is a compilation of stuff from their first EPs, 2 EPs that they put out in the early 80s, and one album that they released called Gone But Not Forgotten. So it's a compilation of tracks from that. Great Vancouver punk new wave stuff. Then I got this one from the Real Kids. This one's called Growing Up Wrong. And again, this is a compilation album with a bunch of live tracks. And they were a Boston rock band from the early 70s. And all these recordings are from the late 70s. And I think most aside too, if you have the compilation album Live at the Rat, I believe those are the tracks from that that were on that compilation. Next up, some 60s kind of soft pop kind of stuff from Dave D, Dozy, Becky, Mick, and Tish with their album Time to Take Off. And I gotta mention, most of this stuff I haven't had a chance to listen to, so even though I'm showing it to you, I haven't heard a lot of it yet. Another comp. Well, this actually isn't really, I guess you could call a comp. This is a French label that put out this series called Pop Blues. And this is volume 1. It's the Ansley Dunbar Retaliation. He was the drummer with the John Mayall Band, and then he went solo and put out, I thought, 3 or 4 albums. But this, at first I thought it was probably a compilation of tracks from the four albums that he put out, but it's actually just a repress of the very first debut self-titled album that he released. It's just a copy of that. And it's early 60s and 70s UK blues rock. Then I was happy to find a copy of this. I've been looking for this one for a while. The Flower Traveling Band, their second LP called Satori. They're a Japanese hard rock, psych, prog kind of mix. And this is a later reissue, and I believe an unofficial reissue It came out in 2017, I believe. And the original album came out in 1971. It's got this really nice inner sleeve. But if you recall, their first album, which I think was called, I have it, but I think it's called Everything or Everywhere, something like that, featured the band, showed a picture on the front cover of the band riding motorcycles naked. But that album was just an album of covers, and this second album was the first time that they recorded original material. So that's Flower Traveling Band from Japan. And I picked up this one. This is one that I'm not familiar with this band, but I saw it on somebody else's YouTube channel, and they recommend it. The band's called Siren, and the album's called Strange Locomotion. And I believe they're like a 70s hard rock, blues rock kind of band. Once again, haven't heard it, but looking forward to listening to this. Siren. It's got a die cut cover. So the sleeve comes out. There's a picture of the band there, and then you see the band through the cutout. Next one. This is like a 70s kind of late 70s or mid 70s kind of radio friendly FM radio kind of hard rock band, featuring the vocals of Karen Lawrence. You might remember her from a band called 1994. They released a couple albums, and I believe this is the only album that this band, one of her early bands, like this might have been her first band. They're called LA Jets, and it's just a self-titled album. And then she did some blues stuff later on. Called the band was called Blues by Nature, and I don't think they put out any vinyl, but I do have a couple of CDs from them. Anyways, LA Jets featuring Karen Lawrence on vocals. And some more classic rock. Rick Derringer, All American Boy, with his debut album. Came out in 1973. And you may recall that he played with Johnny Winter, and he actually does a couple of songs that he wrote, but I think they were first performed with the Johnny Winter Band, and that's Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo, probably his best known solo song, and then another one called Cheap Tequila that Johnny Winter did. Now for some UK blues from the early 70s. This one came out in 1972, and this one's called Who Will Save the World, and this is kind of neat. Has this little comic book inner sleeve. And this is, I believe, an original copy. And this one was just released, I think, last year for one of the record store days, but man, was it expensive. But I picked this one up at a fairly decent price. And then some power pop bubblegum rock from the Raspberries. This is their third album called Side 3. And they were from Cleveland, Ohio, and featured Eric Carmen. And he went solo after the Raspberries. Some great power pop, though. Up next is this is kind of a, maybe I'll take the shrink off. You'll see it better. Not so much better. Well, maybe not. Anyways, it's kind of a super group. It's called Checkered Past, and it's got ex-members of Blondie, the Sex Pistols, guy that played with David Bowie, and who else is on here? Right. The singer, Michael Debar, or Debars, not sure how you say it, he was with a band called Silverchair. And this is the only album they released. And it came out in 1984. And it's, I guess you could call it a hard rock. It's more of a hard rock album. And Michael, like I said, Michael Debars, if I'm pronouncing that sort of right, was in a band called Silverchair, and I have the reissue of their first album, but I'm still looking for a copy of their second album. But anyways, that was a band he was in, super group called Checkered Past. Then I got, here's another, I believe this one's a compilation of tracks from the band the Mojo Man, and they're a 60s garage punk kind of band. And this is a French pressing, and again, I think it's just a compilation album. Mojo Man. Then I got a copy of this one, and this is 1910 Fruit Gum Company, another bubblegum band from the late 60s, early 70s. And I believe this is their last album, their fourth and last album, called Hard Ride. And this is actually, their other three are fairly easy to find, but this one's a little more difficult. And you'll pay a little bit more, which I did. But this is one of those bands of that bubblegum era on Buddha Records. I think this is it's on Buddha Records. But and I saw Cosmic Brian, who has a great channel here on YouTube. He did a couple of videos for bubblegum, and apparently a lot of these bands like 1910 Fruit Gun Company and Ohio Express and a couple others were just studio musicians, and they weren't real bands. And I don't think any of the band members are even on the cover of this, but you could see he was saying that the guys on the cover of the album weren't necessarily the guys that were in the band that toured. It had usually, and they may not even been the guys that played on the record. But anyway, some great bubblegum rock from 1910 Fruit Gum Company. And then I picked up a couple, these are a couple more of those I saw in somebody else's YouTube channel. So the next couple are blind buys. I have no idea what they're like, but I'm sure I saw this and somebody recommended it. And this is a band, I believe they're out of the UK, maybe. And they're, I believe, like a early 70s hard rock band called Churchill. And this is their self-titled album, which, once again, might have been the only album they did. Then another blind buy was this one, Cat Mother. And this one was, I think they used to be called Cat Mother and the Newsboys or something like that, but it's just Cat Mother now. And this is another one where I don't know what it's like. I haven't heard it yet, so I don't know really what it's like, but I believe I saw this one too on somebody else's YouTube channel, and they recommended. And this one's got the gatefold. Some pictures of the band. And there's the back cover. Yeah, tracks. And actually, I picked that one up. I think I got that one from Eroc, and then I saw another copy of it at Record Collector's Paradise, and the one I just showed you is the the US version, and this one's the Canadian one. You know, same deal. So I picked both of them up, and I figured I'll play them, and whichever one's in the best condition, I'll keep that one and sell the other. And here's, I showed you that album with Michael Desbars. This is another band he was in called Detective, and this is their debut album from 1977. And they were signed to the Swan Song label, which was Led Zeppelin's label. And once again, he was in the band that I talked about, Silverhead. And they sort of had a sound that was kind of similar to Led Zeppelin. So this is their very first album. There's a picture of the band on the back. Then I picked up some more classic rock, because I used to have all their albums, but then when I sold my collection a number of years ago, I sold it. So I'm slowly getting back some of the records I used to own, and this is Cheap Trick Live at Budokan, which was a huge seller for them. Inner sleeve, or gatefold. Had some big hits on this one. More classic rock. Very first Brownsville Station. And anybody that, any of the older people out there will remember that Brownsville Station did Smoking in the Boys' Room. They were the original band that did that song. It's not on this album though, but no, Smoking in the Boys' Room isn't a Motley Crue song. It's a Brownsville Station song. Then I got this one. This is a British band, I believe they're Scottish, actually. Blues band from the early 70s. This is their fourth and final LP. They came out in 1972 and featured the great Maggie Bell on vocals, and she's I would say one of the best blues vocalists that was around, and she doesn't quite get the recognition she deserves, and I think she's every bit as good as Janis Joplin. But this album featured Les Harvey on guitar. Well, all their albums did. He's Alex Harvey from the Sensational Alex Harvey Band. That's his brother. But before they finished this album, and this album's called Continuous Performance. I thought it was supposed to be continuous, and they may have made an error in cutting the sleeve, but no, that's what it's called. And he was electrocuted on stage at a gig in England, and Jimmy McCulloch took over after he was killed, and he later went on to perform with Wings. But and another band that's highly overlooked, Stone the Crows. More British. I think this is their. I believe it's their second album. Came out in 1970, and they had an earlier album which was like their first album was more in the blues rock vein, and this one they went in a more psych prog vein than their first album, and it featured Dave Edmunds on guitar, and they had a top 10 hit in England with the instrumental version of a classical piece called Sabre Dance. So this is a Love Sculpture Forms and Feelings. Next up is a band from Australia called the Psychotic Turnbuckles. And this is, I believe, was their debut album called Pharaohs of the Far Out. Came out in 1989. And they were kind of a punky, glammy, hard rock band. And I picked this one up. Whoops. Got home and realized I already have a copy. But it's a great album, so once again, I'll figure out which one's in the best shape and I'll sell the other one. So that's Psychotic Turnbuckles. And I was able to, when I was in Edmonton, I was able to pick up a couple of Grail albums. And first I'll give you my definition of Grail. It doesn't mean it's rare and super expensive. It just means that I've been looking for a while and couldn't find. But I got lucky at Record Collector's Paradise. Found this one. This is Coven's second album. Came out in 1971. And you may recall their first album was called Witchcraft Destroys Minds and Reaps Souls, which came out in 1969. And they were credited as one of the first bands that had that satanic occult kind of imagery and lyrical content. But in this album and their next album, they kind of got away from that occult stuff, and it's more just a straight popish hard rock than the first album. And they actually had a hit. I don't think it went up very high in the charts, but it was a hit with the theme song for the Billy Jack movie called One Tin Soldier. So that's Coven, their second album, self-titled. And here's another one. I've been looking for quite a while for this one. Finally found it, the very first Uriah E Belt. Very heavy, very humble. And I really wanted it. I already have the regular copy. This one with that sleeve. That's the North American copy. But this is either the German or this is the German pressing. And this also was on the UK pressing, some of the first pressings. Great inner sleeve or inner jacket. There's the so once again, finally found a copy of that. Glad to get a hold of that one. So that was it for my March finds 2023. I hope you enjoyed that. It's kind of a long one, but there was a lot there. And so thanks for listening. If you like what you see, please subscribe. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can know when I do another video. Anyways, I'll see you next time. In case I don't do another video before then, I will be in Edmonton with a couple of tables at the Edmonton Record Fair coming up Sunday, April 23rd. And that's in Edmonton. And they've moved the location this year. It's in a different spot than it normally was. That's now in the Northgate Lions Senior Recreation Center, which is on 139th Avenue Northwest. So if you're in the Edmonton area, make sure you check it out. It's a great show. And stop by my booth or my tables and say hi. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.